At that point, I was switched on. I was like, okay, I'm listening now. August was publicly speaking about his relationship with Jada. Everybody else, I was like, okay, I want to know what this is all about. Hey guys, it's Nadreen K. Welcome back to my channel if you are returning. And if you're new here, thank you for tuning in for today's video. This is not the typical topic I would normally cover on my channel. Like, I don't generally make it a habit to discuss the relations of people I don't know. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what I think we all missed from that interview. He actually spends maybe 10 minutes or so talking about his time with Jada Pinkett, Will Smith giving him his blessing and stuff. But then what he does spend the majority of the interview talking about is how he coped after losing his brother and his sister, and what he went through health-wise while he was trying to balance that with like raising their kids, essentially. One thing that he said that really stuck with me, the fact that that version of him died when his sister died. And I think that really brings up the topic of identity in a really clear way. I related to that so much because identity is definitely something that in my later life, in my adult life, I have struggled with. And I wanted to talk about that today. I wanted to get really, really real and really, really deep with you guys. So from my perspective, when you grow up as a firstborn, your identity is almost pre-created for you. I think a lot of firstborns can probably identify with this. Your parents have a preconceived idea for the type of parent they want to be, and therefore they probably have a preconceived idea as to the type of child you need to be. And so my experience being the firstborn daughter was always that I was the template. I had to live my life, and I didn't know this at the time, but I kind of had to live my life in a way that sort of set the foundation or paved the road ahead for my siblings to follow. And while I was doing this, I don't think I realized that I wasn't really being authentic. I wasn't living my truth. Now, between the ages of 0 and 18, you can't really, the concept of living in your truth is quite, you're not thinking about that. You're just trying to, get through school, get through your day-to-day, and, just do all the things. And so I ended up, for a very big chunk of my adult life, and I would say throughout my whole 20s, really trying to break apart or question parts of myself and understand whether that was me or whether that was a product of the identity that had been created for me, or the person who I was raised to become. And I'm not sitting here and blaming anybody, because I think that it's important that we all take responsibility for what we do. When you go through an identity crisis, which I probably was in for a good 10 to 12 years, you'll go through different stages. Complete loss, not knowing who you are, or who you were, or who you want to be. And then there's anger, like a real anger, and you kind of direct that and project that onto the people who probably would have had an impact on your identity. Anyone who's, had a big impact in your life or has played a big role in shaping who you are is very likely to see the brunt of that anger. So it could be your parents, could be, close family members or friends at the time. And then you get to a place of acceptance where you're like, I'm not gonna be who I was before. That person and the circumstances that they lived in are no more, and I have to accept that. And then once you get to that point of acceptance, and I'm just talking about my path, you then realize that, you have a clean slate, and that you can ultimately decide who you want to be moving forward. And then it's about working towards becoming that person. And that involves a lot of work to kind of get rid of all of your beliefs, or, I guess the lies that we tell ourselves, getting through all of that stuff, and coming out on the other side and, creating new truths for yourselves and living in a new truth, and almost a new identity. I think that for anybody who's watching this in their 20s or later in life or earlier in life, who is going through something similar, I wanted to make this video for you. Identity is huge. I think it shapes us, it gives us so much grounding and so much psychological stability and emotional stability that, you know, without a strong sense of self, it's a really sad and sometimes dangerous place to be. What I've learned about myself anyway is that I'm somebody who's really driven by purpose. So in my childhood, I guess the purpose that I was driven by was making my parents proud, being really good at everything academically, you know, living the kind of life that by society standards, you know, was it. And I think I got to a point, you know, probably in my last relationship, and you know, I get a lot of questions on here about, you know, why I'm not engaged anymore, and you know, wasn't I married, blah 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 blah. To set that all aside, no, I never got married. I was engaged, and this is the first time I've openly spoken about it. I didn't feel that it was right for me to continue on and get married because I was no longer the person that I thought I was. And I think that it was a really tough time for me because it's a huge decision, and to walk away from a 5-6 year relationship, to walk away from a life that you've built for yourself, which is actually quite decent. You know, we had bought a home, and you know, everything was kind of on the right path, if you know what I mean, but I just wasn't that person anymore. But I didn't know who I was anymore. I guess the one thing I knew, which was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life, is if I go ahead with this, I won't make it. And I knew that I wouldn't make it because I felt trapped in it. I felt trapped in not in the relationship, I felt trapped in my life. I felt like I was living somebody else's life and it didn't feel right. And, you know, I felt like I needed to escape or get out. I can't, it's really hard to explain. It had nothing to do with my partner at the time. It was just that if I couldn't get out, I would find a way out. And when your thoughts start taking a dark path like that, you know that you need to do something. So whether or not I wasn't ever like clinically diagnosed with depression or anything like that, but I think that I made the decision that I made probably helped me more than I'll ever know. And that decision was obviously to leave the relationship. And it's hard to leave a relationship that isn't toxic. You know, as much as people say that breakups are hard, breakups are really hard when there's nothing wrong with you two as people. But I guess what was ultimately not right was the fact that I wasn't the person I was going into the relationship. And even going into the relationship, I didn't know who I was. And so towards the end, it was like, I'm rambling a lot, but it's going to make sense at some point. Towards the end, I just felt like I can't continue on in this because I'm never going to find myself, and I'm only going to continue to get lost in all of this, and I'm going to do something that's really silly, I should say. So, and don't get me wrong, like after that relationship ended, I didn't figure it all out. Like I would probably say that I've only gotten to a place of stability in the last year. That is how important your identity and your purpose is. And I'll go back to, you know, me saying I'm always driven by purpose. I felt like for a lot of the time since I left that relationship, I haven't known what my purpose is or what my driving force is in life, because up until that point, up until, you know, my early 20s, my purpose had been given to me by my parents or by school or by my workplace. It was like, you work, or you do really good in school, or you know, have a successful relationship, or you get on the property ladder. And I'd done all those things. And now that I'd stepped away from all of that, what is my purpose? As I didn't know what my purpose was. And when I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know who I am, and I don't feel like I want to be existing if I don't know who I am or what I'm put here to do. You know, I've grown up in a Christian household, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a few comments on this video where people talk about, you know, coming to the Lord, or, you know, getting stronger in your faith and that being the cure. But I think that we cannot make recommendations to people who we don't know and whose shoes we haven't walked in. So while I appreciate that, you know, people will have their thoughts on what could help somebody through, you know, this sense of loss of identity or loss of purpose, let's not make recommendations for people who are not ourselves, because half the time we don't even know what to recommend for ourselves. I guess for me, finding my sense of purpose again was crucial to still being here. Because, and I'll be like really candid with you guys, like, you know, there are times where I go back to that headspace, and I know how to pull myself out, but there are times I go back to that headspace where I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. And that's what that headspace was, because I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know who I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to be doing or what my journey is meant to be. And that's a dark place. Like, it is a dark place, and I can look at that and almost like an out-of-body experience and be like, somebody who says something like that, or who says some of the other things or thinks some of the other things that I was thinking in those times, is in a very tough spot. And I guess it's a necessary part of exploring who you are. And I'm an overthinker by nature. But it's something that you don't want to dwell in too long, because it becomes like a hole, and you just keep getting dragged down further and further. Having a sense of identity or knowing who you are isn't something that's easy, or isn't something that happens overnight for everybody, isn't something that you're kind of, you know, you're just born with and you run with it. You know, it's a constant battle of invention, breaking down, reinvention. Like, your core will remain the same a lot of the time, but who you are and how you present yourself to the world will often change. And those changes in my life have been driven by what my purpose is. And for me, my new purpose is really to make a difference in other people's lives. I'm probably thinking, well, yeah, of course that's your purpose. That's kind of why you started your channel, isn't it? No, I started my channel to find my purpose, and that's just what it ended up being. And then I realized that actually I really enjoy this. And if I enjoy it as much doing it for people that I don't know, people that maybe I'll never meet, that I would want to do that for people who are in my life. And so I guess that's kind of where I came to a decision about all of the things in my life that I had, you know, always been unknown or undecided about. Having kids, you know, something that I've never really seen for me, has now become something that I would like to have in my life, because I feel like I would want to impart all of the knowledge and all of the experience that I've gained in trying to find myself, in helping bring, you know, a human into the world who's going to do good, really, or who's going to live in their truth, or just, you know, go and find their own path. My purpose in life is to give life, and whether that is through having kids, if I'm able to, whether that is through helping people to make the choice to be here, that is my purpose, and that is helping me to re-identify with myself, and to, you know, build up my new sense of identity. This is going to sound really off for anybody who's been watching my channel, who probably thinks that these are things I had figured out already for a very long time, but it's crazy when you live in yourself. There is so much that you don't see. If you want to figure out who you are, there's two ways to go about it. One is to, I guess, go deep within yourself, go back, go forward, and kind of look around, figure out who you've been, figure out where you're headed, figure out how you feel. And then the next step is to look at yourself through the lens of other people. Because there's always two layers to people, and what other people will tell you about yourself will sometimes shock you, because obviously they've got a different perspective. And so I had the benefit of having a channel with, I don't know, over 400 videos documenting my life from 20 14 right through to this very day, which is crazy. So I've been on YouTube for like 6 years. 6 years? Yeah, 6 years. So I could watch back old videos and look at previous versions of myself and, you know, make a judgment call as if it's not me. I just wanted to make the point that if all we got from that interview was the fact that Jada Pinkett and Will Smith definitely have an open relationship, that's really sad, because the interview was about so much more than that. What I got from it was that sometimes it takes the loss of someone else to lose yourself and to therefore rebuild a new version of yourself. And I think a lot of times when you get into a really dark and sad place, there is a grieving process, because you're grieving the former version of yourself that was maybe in your eyes happy, carefree, just a better you, which adulthood does to all of us. But I would just like to say, for anybody who is going through that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes everything needs to fall apart for the best version of you, or the new or more improved version of you for the circumstances you're in now can be born. I just want to say to my subscribers and to anybody that transparency and honesty about who you are or who you think you are is the best thing. It's the best cure. Just be honest and open with yourself and with other people, and, you know, baby steps from there. If you like this style of video, if you kind of want me to talk about more things like this, then let me know, because you know, staying true to me or living in my purpose is about being honest and about sharing as much of myself as I'm comfortable with. That is going to help you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.